want to go back to breaking news that we first brought you at the beginning of the newscast. Some new information coming from a report and more information about the investigation into Michael Dean's death. We are joined live over the phone right now from the Dean family attorney, Lee Merritt. Lee, thank you for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Very good. What can you tell us that this new development means for this case? We've learned that there was some sort of altercation at the time of the arrest.
Well, those four words are the only thing that this report adds. It's altercation of some sort, which really is as ambiguous as the details have been so far. It tells us nothing new. An altercation can be defined as a verbal or noisy disagreement. What we know from witnesses is that, and from the physical evidence, is that Michael Dean's door was sealed when he was shot. In other words, a bullet traveled through his window. The Officer DeCruz, never entered his car. He never exited his car before he was killed. And so this altercation, at best, was a verbal spat through a glass window. It's disingenuous. The report is unnecessarily obscure, and it's intentionally avoiding the design of the law. The design of these kind of reports was to provide for more transparency, and this altercation of some sort only makes things less clear.
What are some of the questions that you now have moving forward? Are they the same questions that you had the first day that you started representing the Dean family?
That's exactly it. What we need to know is what caused Officer DeCruz to pull the trigger. What was the deadly force that he was being confronted with, or that members of the public were being confronted with? There was something else very disingenuous about this report. It describes an evasion, but it says it was a short distance. If you quantify that distance, you'll find that it's less than 2 city blocks before Mr. Dean voluntarily pulls over. What most people call that is finding a safe place to stop, not an evasion.
Well, the Texas Rangers say they are still investigating this. What is the next thing you want to see come from this case?
I want to see an indictment come from the office of Attorney Garza, or District Attorney Garza. There's clear evidence that would have reached a probable cause standard that a crime has been committed. It should be presented to a grand jury in Bell County, and DeCruz should be indicted on murder charges.
My main question is, there is body camera footage in this case, right? So if there is a report that makes things sound a little bit vague, comparing that to what happened on body camera footage, it should be very clear what happened, shouldn't it?
Right. It's not that they don't have the details. They're choosing not to release the details. And what we know is that if these details somehow exonerated this police officer, if it justified his actions, we would all see the tape on the evening news, that the information would be released. They've only, and when I say they, I mean the Texas Rangers, and they have only obscured the facts when they believe the officer is at fault. At this point, I am thoroughly convinced that is the case. It's just a waiting game at this point.
Of course, this has been going on for more than 2 months since the incident occurred. What's the level of frustration with the family and even with you, Mr. Merritt?
Well, I don't know if you hear it in my voice, but every time that this family receives a phone call about an update, and they lost their son, there's been no explanation for what's happened. And they were confronted with an update earlier today, only to learn that the update was more obscurity, more distractions, and more disingenuousness. It's been extremely exhausting for this family. I spoke with Mr. Dean's mother earlier today, and she was just very upset by the news. It didn't provide the kind of relief the law was designed to provide.
While this case is still being investigated, that blocks any legal action to get discovery, correct? So if the case was closed, then you would be able to get more information from these reports, right?
I would be able to get more information from a civil lawsuit perspective, but what this family demands, what this community demands, is criminal accountability for police misconduct. Police officers cannot be above the law when it comes to the use of deadly force. They have to answer to the same laws that everyone else in the state of Texas has to answer to.
And what is the actual status of any civil action you might be wanting to take?
Our civil lawsuit is prepared. We have more than enough information to move forward with a wrongful death lawsuit and a violation of Section 1983, which is the Civil Rights Act in terms of misuse of force. But however, we are not filing that until we have access to the body cam footage. We're not filing that until this case has made its way through the criminal courts.
All right, Lee Merritt, the attorney for Michael Dean's family, thank you so much for giving us your time this evening.